So, Chelsea Manning apparently is being tortured in prison. And I'm just letting you all know right now, strap yourself in for this one because it's going to be a doozy. This isn't a story that I like doing. And it's not because, I don't think it deserves the attention. It's quite the opposite, actually. I understand how important this is. I understand how scary it can be to be in a situation like Chelsea Manning, who did what she thought was right because indeed she was correct. It was the ethical thing to do. We learned a lot from about the Bush administration when she gave those documents to WikiLeaks. And I'm sure she has no regrets. And I think she's actually said that herself. But it doesn't make you any less heartbroken for her, or it shouldn't make you any less heartbroken for her, because it seems like our heroes bear the brunt of the bruises when it comes to serving justice to the elites who basically aim to make money and destroy lives, no matter what it means for any particular country or any particular group of people. So Chelsea Manning's Twitter account tweeted out this today. It says that she's been put in solitary confinement, or what is being called administrative segregation. You will be housed in your cell for a maximum of 22 hours per day. You will receive breaks according to the established break rule. You will use your break, usually 2 hours long, to make personal phone calls and attend to your hygiene needs. Now, solitary confinement, as defined by the rapporteur of the United Nations, and how it is defined in its culture is as such. He has defined solitary confinement on the basis of the Istanbul Statement on the Use and Effects of Solitary Confinement as the physical and social isolation of individuals who are confined to their cells 22 to 24 hours a day. Although this form of practice and the name given to it may vary, its overriding characteristics is the absence of meaningful human contact by the isolated person with other persons or with the world outside of his or her cell. So what that means, long story short, is that according to the United Nations, Chelsea Manning is being tortured. In hell, even if that wasn't defined by the United Nations, try being in a cell for 22 hours out of the day. Try it. It doesn't work. It's horrific. There are people, when you're in a prison, especially a federal penitentiary, there's a lot of freedoms that actually come with that. Like, obviously, you're not free, but you're free to roam around a lot of the times. You're free to engage in jobs, meaningful work, things like that. Like, cooks, people make license. You know how it goes. You're allowed to have a radio. You're allowed to go to the commissary. Things like that are like what allow people to get through their sentence without becoming potentially suicidal. It is that serious, people. It's one thing to be in a prison, but it's another thing to be locked in a cell for 22 hours out of the day. That's horrendous. And so, of course, her lawyer is speaking up on this, as well as she should. Now, many of you may not know why Chelsea Manning has been arrested. And it's because, for whatever reason, this hasn't widely been discussed in the mainstream. Excuse me while I'm trying to clean this stuff out of my eyelash. I got long eyelashes, y'all, so they get stuck in my eyes a lot. Prices of being pretty, I guess. Anyway, shout out to my mom for the long eyelashes. I want to just go ahead and read this article from the New York Daily News to kind of give you some background information on what was going on. So, former Army intelligence analyst Chelsea Manning, who was convicted of passing classified information to WikiLeaks, was arrested in Virginia Friday morning after refusing to testify in a grand jury probe into the anti-government secrecy website. A federal spokesperson confirmed. Virginia federal judge Claude Hilton found Manning in contempt of court, and her lawyer Myra Miltzer Cohen told us this on Friday. Now, the convicted whistleblower was subpoenaed in January by prosecutors in an investigation that Manning's supporters claim is related to federal charges brought against the WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange. Oh yeah, we're gonna have a conversation about that. Give me a second. On Wednesday, Manning repeatedly refused to answer the grand jury questions related to the 2010 leak that she served time for. Manning said on Twitter that she replied to every question with the statement, "I object to the question and refuse to answer on the grounds that the question is in violation of my First Amendment," which is obviously freedom of speech. And if I recall, it is due process in the First Amendment. And then the Fourth Amendment is privacy. Yeah, a right to privacy. Interest protected is what they would call it. But it protects against illegal search and seizures. It's the guarantee of a warrant for, any type of search and seizure. Excessive force, reasonable requirement. All search and seizures under the Fourth Amendment must be reasonable. No excessive force shall be used. Reasonableness is the ultimate measure of the constitutionality of a search and seizure. Electronic surveillance. Oh, God. This is interesting information, unfortunately. Following September 11, 2001, on the attacks on the World Trade Center, Following the attacks on the World Trade Center and the Pentagon, Congress and the President enacted legislation to strengthen the intelligence gathering community's ability to combat domestic terrorism. Isn't it crazy? There's still a bunch of white right-wing Christians doing most of the shooting, and we won't combat that, but we'll attack the fake boogeyman that came from Saudi Arabia, who was one of our allies, and they were from Al-Qaeda, but now we're going around and funding Al-Qaeda in Syria right now, right? But the Patriot Act, I'm sure, was about Al-Qaeda. Let's move on. Entitled the Patriot Act, the legislation's provisions aim to increase the ability of law enforcement to search email and telephonic communications in addition to medical, financial, and library records. One provision permits law enforcement to obtain access to stored voicemails by obtaining a search warrant rather than a surveillance warrant. So basically what this is just letting us know is that Patriot Act allowed the Fourth Amendment to be violated, but it does violate the Fourth Amendment in of itself, so it should not even be existent, let's be honest. So basically her right to privacy was violated, and that's what she's claiming, and her lawyer are claiming. And then she said it also violates the Sixth Amendment, and the Sixth Amendment says that it guarantees the rights of criminal defendants, including the right to a public trial without unnecessary delay, the right to a lawyer, the right to an impartial jury, and the right to know who your accusers are and the nature of the charges and evidence against you. It has been most visibly tested in a series of cases involving terrorism, but much more often figures in cases that involve, for example, a jury selection or the protection of a witness. Including victims of sex crimes as well as witnesses in need of protection from retaliation. Who do you go to when you need protection from retaliation from the United States government? That's my question. So those are the grounds that Chelsea Manning objected to speaking on. And to my knowledge, which I guess she should have probably invoked the Fifth Amendment also. I don't know if the Fifth Amendment can be used if you're being subpoenaed as a witness, but she probably should have invoked the Fifth Amendment as well, but I'm not an attorney. So, but my point is that Chelsea Manning had her sentence commuted. This should all be behind her. WikiLeaks hasn't done anything wrong. They haven't. They've already been exonerated by the international community. They've been exonerated. Julian Assange specifically has been exonerated by the United Nations. So what exactly is being done behind closed doors, and why was it so? Now, I've said this, and there are people who are Trump supporters who argued with me, but I wasn't the only one who said this. Myself, Elizabeth Lee Voss, Caitlin Johnstone, other people who participated in the Assange vigil. We've all said this. Trump is playing your faces. He will use you, and he will use you to whatever end it suits his needs. Then he will chew you up. He will spit you out the moment you stand in front of his popularity or his personal image or ultimately his ego. Where's Trump at? For all you QAnon people who praise WikiLeaks. You loved WikiLeaks then. I noticed it's not the whole free Assange thing. Y'all not still on the free Assange boat because you're also big Trump supporters. Is this part of the plan? Is this part of the plan to lock up whistleblowers on Trump's watch? This is part of the plan? I'm curious. This is him standing up to the corrupt intelligence agencies? This is him showing appreciation? Because, Lord Jesus, I hope he never shows me appreciation. Because it seems like all the people that Trump shows appreciation to like end up in jail, end up, on the wrong side of a nuclear. Remember, they said that he's also friends with Putin. That's what the neoliberals said. The MAGA people swear that he loves WikiLeaks. Now, apparently, and I believe that that's what this is really about. They didn't want the word getting out that Julian Assange was being illegitimately tried. The reason that this is private is because they don't want a public spectacle. You have to remember the neocons have a grudge against Julian Assange. Why is that? Well, what exactly did Chelsea Manning reveal? Manning, 31, served 7 years in prison before being pardoned by former President Obama after she was convicted of the largest leak of classified documents in U.S. history. The leaks, which included video of a helicopter in Baghdad shooting and killing 2 Reuters photographers, set off a global debate about privacy. Oh, did I mention the helicopter was of the United States? And that was just like one of the things that was included. The United States killing off reporters. That's what she revealed, and she's in jail now because she did the morally correct thing. We can't even get Clinton in jail for her breaking the law for pure selfish desire. This is disgusting. I don't know how else to put it. It's reprehensible. How can you be a Trump supporter? Like, that's kind of like where I'm at right now. Like, I understood. There were people who say he stands up to the establishment. Okay, you thought that for a while. We found out that wasn't true. He's lock in step with the Republican establishment now. Well, you thought he was going to lock people up. Never happened. Okay, I guess that was part of the plan also. Never happened. Okay, Andrew McCabe lost his job. He didn't even fire Andrew McCabe. That was an OIG. He did it begrudgingly, but he did it. It needed to be done. He fired Comey. Okay, I give him that one, I guess. He said he was going to pull out of Syria. We end up back in. Said we're going to pull out of Syria. End up back in. He said he was going to be the anti-war candidate. We're in Venezuela. We're still in Syria. He's aiding Saudi Arabia and bombing Yemen. We're still in Afghanistan. We're still in Iraq. Income inequality is higher than it's ever been. Jobs are disappearing. He never brought jobs back to the United States like he claimed. Bolton is still here. He brought in Mad Dog Mattis before. And now we have Elia Abrams in the mix. He basically has Hillary Clinton's star lineup in his administration. He had Jeff Sessions before, and now he has his Burr, so I guess, whatever. Brought in Kavanaugh, one of the main proprietors of the Patriot Act, and constitutional violator extraordinaire. And now he's even allowing his federal government, he's letting neocons run the show and allowing whistleblowers to be tortured and having their constitutional rights surrendered over publishing, not hacking, not stealing, but publishing. Chelsea Manning served her sentence already. And the scary part is for Chelsea Manning, you can appeal a contempt of court. You can, of course. Unfortunately, only 7% of appeals are ever heard. That takes forever. I don't know how long she's supposed to be in prison for contempt of court. But who do you go to next? Like, you're fighting a federal, like a secret grand jury with a federal judge at the highest levels. Who do you appeal to when there's no one left to listen and to stand up for you? Now, Jared H. Beck told me, because the legal process has jaded him, and I don't blame him. He's one of the reasons I decided not to be a lawyer. He said that the criminal justice system is so corrupt that you can win every single case with the facts and still lose every single time, depending on who's your judge and who has self-interest involved in whatever case you're involved in and arguing. That's not how the justice system should be. Why are we not being made aware that there were so many QAnon people lying? They were like, oh, nah, the MAGA people were, no, Trump wouldn't prosecute Julian Assange. What happened? This is on his watch. I would never in my right mind, I would never in good conscience support any president who allowed this to take place without even mentioning it, without even justifying it. And if you think he doesn't know, well, first of all, that's all the more reason why he shouldn't be president. But if you think he doesn't know, you're wrong. He knows. But they tell him to play ball, and he does. Because he was never one of you. He was never one of us. He's a billionaire. That's what he is. He didn't work for his money. He inherited it. He didn't work for his real estate. He inherited it. And he happened to run against Hillary Clinton, who was, if he ran against Bernie, he wouldn't even be president right now. Chelsea Manning is a hero. This is the neocons. And for people all these MAGA people who are locked up with the neocons because Trump was, forgot that you liked Trump because he was supposedly anti-establishment. But now that you see the neocons, or at least you see Trump adopting the neocon agenda and retaliating against WikiLeaks because they were the ones, remember, who were first exposed. That was when the Democrats loved Julian Assange. If this was 10 years ago, the Democrats would be screaming at the top of their lungs about the illegitimate prosecution of Julian Assange and WikiLeaks. But now it's a different time, right? The party lines are more blurred now than they ever been. They only differ nominally. This is horrendous. We'd love to know what your thoughts are about this. Please like the video. Please share this. And before I go, let me just say, why isn't the mainstream talking about this? Why isn't anyone talking about it? I think Jimmy might have been the only one that I can remember recently talking about this. I tweeted about it. And to be honest with you, I think I don't talk about this. I didn't talk about it initially. Was because as a person who's been wrongly imprisoned due to police brutality after I was stalked in a hospital by cops after they put me there, talking about being in prison, wrongful arrest and things like that, it is somewhat of a triggering topic for me because it takes me back to places that I don't like being. And so when I say I understand Manning's pain and how helpless she can feel, I do. It's upsetting and it's sad. But they want to deter people from doing the right thing. And Manning standing her ground, in really being a martyr for truth and for justice. I think that will encourage people to not be deterred from doing what is morally right. And I thank her for that. And I wish you the best of luck going forward, Chelsea. Our hearts are with you. And I hope that you get out of the situation soon, because you don't deserve this. If anything, you should have a parade thrown in your honor for exposing the criminality of this cabal that is the establishment. You shouldn't be in jail. Thank you for watching that segment of Mi Casa es Su Casa. Help us reach our goal of 500 patrons. You can do so by donating as little as $1 by clicking on the Patreon link in the description below. Don't forget, join us on Roku and JustNForm. You can follow us on Twitter and Facebook as well. And remember, more than anything else, find your balance. Peace.